Welcome to Blood in the Snow Radio, where we give you the latest news and interviews with the best in Canadian genre cinema. Here are your hosts, Robert Bellamy and Festival Director Kelly Michael Stewart.
Welcome to Bits Radio and to our special guest today, Tim Rozon. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
Oh, no, thank you for coming on. It was great seeing you on that big screen in Toronto for Purgatory Jack.
Yeah, you're telling me. It was a real, you put on a hell of a festival too. So I had a great time.
Excellent. Now, how did that project come around? Because it's a different type of story.
Yeah, that was one of those things where I was just really fortunate. We have this saying in the business, feast or famine. It's kind of like if you're an actor, there's a million things going on or there's nothing. And this just happened to have come at a time where I was so busy. I was literally doing a remake of a horror movie called Terror Train. I don't know if anybody's seen that. If you've never seen it, you should, with Jamie Lee Curtis and David Copperfield back in the day. Anyway, I was doing a remake of that movie. I played the David Copperfield character. So I was learning magic and life was amazing. I was very happy, you know what I mean? I'm doing a remake and I'm playing Copperfield character. It was pretty cool. And anyway, this script came along for Purgatory Jack. And at the same time, I got this call to do this other movie, this independent kind of a thriller about a guy up north in a cabin by himself going through some stuff, and it like, to be honest, it had a bigger budget, let's just say the thriller did, than Purgatory Jack did. But I couldn't put Purgatory Jack down as a script. I loved the world that the Butler brothers had created. I loved everything about it. I had so many questions and it just seemed so interesting to me that I was like, I actually had the choice of which one I was going to do, which is an amazing feeling as an actor, let me tell you.
Oh, yes.
And it was probably the first time that's ever happened in my life, but it was really easy. I mean, my agent called my agent. Obviously, my agent's really great, and it's always kind of on the same page with me. So they knew it was never going to be about money, and I wasn't just going to pick the project that was going to pay more or whatever. They kind of knew already. They knew from the script. They knew. They said, "Let me guess," and I said, "Yeah, it's got to be Jack. It's so good." It's so great, yeah. And I really, honestly, I was learning Jack while I was filming Terror Train. Yeah.
That's almost two different genres. How did you keep those separate while you were trying to do them?
Well, I was really lucky for the Terror Train. I had a lot of magic and I had a lot of dialogue when I put on the magic show, and that filmed all that stuff the first week. So like the next 3 weeks of that movie, to be honest, was mostly me running. And like, you know what I mean? I didn't have that much more of my big monologue stuff. I kind of got on out of the way, which was great because Jack had a lot. So I was secretly just, learning my stuff in between takes of Terror Train. I was already getting ready for Jack because I wanted to be really prepared when I showed up for Jack. And thank God I was, because I think the first day we filmed was a 6.5 page scene with me and Allie Beaton. And Viv, who played Vivacious, and she was also 100% prepared, which was awesome. So we just out the gate was like ready to go. It was amazing.
Now, what did you use for reference on this? Because I know that speaking with the Butler brothers, they pulled heavy from like the film noir style. And so what was your research into Jack?
What's so funny is that the people listening don't know this, but you and I were kind of chatting before we started. We were talking about video games. And you were talking about Fallout. Well, there's a character in Fallout 4 called Nick Valentine.
Yes.
Who's a detective. Yeah, he's an actual detective, film noir detective. And to be honest, I based a lot of it on him. Just that old school Bogarty type film noir detective. And it was, Nick Valentine-ish. I watched Chinatown, obviously, growing up, and I kind of gave it a little rewatch before doing Jack again. I knew that was a big one to them. But yeah, it was just kind of a nod to the old school film noir detectives. It's one of those things that as an actor, it's kind of like that, a cowboy and like a knight are like the dream roles. You just, or obviously a Jedi. You just would love to dive into one of those type of characters. So it was great to do that.
You're 100% right. Nick Valentine is the epitome of the 50s film noir detective.
Yeah. And I asked the Butler brothers if they played video games, and they didn't. So I left it there. I didn't, I didn't say, oh, well, you should check out Nick Valentine.
That's awesome, though. Now, when you guys got into the middle of this, what were some of the challenges you came across with their world? Like, was there any struggles you had trying to get into their world?
There wasn't struggles trying to get into the world. It's a lot to try and understand on the first kind of go through. Like I said, I did a lot of work with this script. I really went over it a lot of times. Sometimes you with a script, you don't have to get into it as much. It's on the page, it's there what it is. You understand what I'm doing. I'm the Mr. Fix-It in the town, and someone's going to come to town and I'm going to help them. And I know what the story is. This had, we're jumping from the beginning to the end, and there was Pulp Fiction mixed in there with this. There was all thriller. Is it horror? Is it, plus it's funny. There's a lot of humor in there, and you can read that in their writing. So that you're going to lean into the jokes also. So it's like, it was one of those things where it's like, yeah, I fell in love with the world right away. I kind of got it, but I did need some explanations. The good thing is the Butler brothers are so on hand. I've never worked with like a director team like that. They're literally there every second, any step of the way. Which is weird because they don't give a lot of direction per se either. They want to see what you bring to the characters in the scene.
Oh, that's interesting.
They're there to answer any questions for sure. If you're lost in kind of where you think you're at in the story, don't forget, I am helping my grandmother find my daughter, their mother, and I don't know which one of us died first. It's, what I mean?
It's almost like a Terminator backstory.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and then I do remember, I knew it was coming, but the coffee grinds when I slice my arm open to show all the cuts to show that I don't have blood, and it was coffee grinds. Trying to do that effect for the first time was fun because the Butler brothers had no clue either. What are we doing? We had some sort of tape packet with coffee beans. It didn't work, and then eventually we just had the coffee kind of fell off my arm. It worked perfectly. But that was one of those things too, where I was kind of like, what's the question? Well, so I was like, why is it coffee? And they're like, well, no, it's just not coffee. It's just, he doesn't have blood per se anymore because blood is the currency. Blood is, what I mean?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now I have to ask, because you mentioned that they don't really provide direction at first. They want to see what you bring. How hard is that? Like, is that freeing or is that intimidating?
No, it's wonderful. It's wonderful to know that, because especially, that they wrote it, they directing you, they're producing you, they're all in. It's their baby. You know what I mean? So for them to trust immediately for that first day of knowing, they just wanted to see what we did. The first scene was me dancing by myself. I went in and put on the record, and the direction was, okay, why don't you just come in this room and, you play the record. Yeah, that's it. And I came in. Yeah, it was. That was my Brett. I came in and they did the stuff, and then we kind of did the dance, and it was great, and they understood immediately, that I was dancing with what would have been my wife at that time, who's no longer with us, so we just immediately kind of knew, okay, we're all on the same page, because I just remember they were like, yeah, shit, that was great. Well, that was awesome. And I was like, that's great, man. That's first day. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they were really great. I'm not saying they didn't give any direction. They're like very helpful in all the steps of the way, but they're never going to be like, this is how it needs to be. This is what you need to feel. Man. They kind of create this beautiful thing, and they trust you, and they hand it over to you, and you just, it's a special thing. It's amazing.
How long did it take to film that?
Oh, super quick. Quick. Maybe 3 weeks. And like I said, this was one of those times in my life where I was so busy. I wrapped Terror Train. I showed up 2 days later in Northern Ontario and started Jack. And then they're amazing, by the way. They let me fly on the weekend. I actually went back to do a show called Digstown. I had done a couple episodes of Digstown season 1, and they kind of needed my character back from in season 4 for an arc for their lead. And they said, "Do you think you can come?" And I'm like, "Guys, I can't. Like, I'm so busy." And like, "What if we do it on a weekend?" And I'm like, "Well, if the Butler brothers let me fly out to frickin' Prince Edward Island on the weekend during COVID, you know what I mean? If anything happens and I get stuck, that, you know what I mean? Like, it would screw over everything." But they were like, yeah, man. Nah, you'll be fine. You'll be cool. You'll be cool. You know, I don't know if they were freaking out behind the scenes, but that's how they were with me. And, you know, I went and did Digstown and came back and filmed it. It was super quick, man. I want to say 3 weeks. I've also said this before, though. It was one of the best shoots I've done. You know, I followed that up with a really big budget show, an American show right after. And by far, I had way more fun on Purgatory Jack. It's just a family vibe. They create a great kind of set and environment, that whole crew, and it starts with the Butler brothers, and the cast they put together was just so fun. You know, I can't say enough about Allie Beaton. She's amazing, super chill, great to work with, talented actor, and super fun to hang out with. I mean, what else do you want in a co-star?
Right. And she was in 300, one of the coolest, you know, Gerard Butler movies ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was about to ask that too. I think you did kind of just answer that, because you've been on other sets as well, like Schitt's Creek and Winona Earp and things like that. Mm-hmm. How does it compare to this independent set?
I loved it. I got to tell you, I mean, I've been doing this for a long time too, you know, and like I said, I've been really lucky. I've been super busy in the past, you know, just the past little while, past couple of years, and I have the, you know, the luxury to kind of say no to stuff which I didn't really have before, and it all comes down to just projects I want to do and people I want to do them with. You know what I mean? And Purgatory Jack, I already knew from the script it was super fun, and then the set was just so fun. Like, if these guys called me tomorrow, I'm in. Like, I just had a blast making that movie, you know? Yeah, I mean, yeah, you don't have a big trailer, and, you know, I drove myself to work, and there's not, you know, 5-star catering 10 times a day, but I don't need any of that stuff. I'm not an actor that needs stuff, you know, like, I've gotten through life on my own. It's not like I show up to a set all of a sudden I'm like, I need this. I don't understand that mentality. We're there to make a movie. I just want to act. I'm there for the moments between you know, action and cut. That's my drugs, man. And the Butler brothers give you that. They say action, you play, and then they let you play, and then you hear cut, and then, you know, you do it again. And that's what I want to do.
So if they wandered up and said, "Hey, Tim, Purgatory Jack 2.
Oh my God. Well, you need to understand, I've been pushing them real hard to get into the comic book world. You know, I've had some avenues into that myself, and I'm trying to, you know, I've literally pushed on every single person I know. It's just, you know, the world of comics is kind of in a tough spot right now, as of who's buying comics and where the money to be made in comics is, and all that stuff. Because I just think that world's so incredible. You know, it needs to be its own comic. I mean, as a comic book fan, I would love that to be a part of my pull list. Every second Wednesday, Purgatory Jack, the book. Oh my goodness, sign me up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the things right now that you have to do for love more than money. Mm-hmm. You know, we I mentioned I run a Comic-Con as well. Every year we put out a comic book for the Comic-Con, and it is not a moneymaker, but people love it. So I think you're right. Purgatory in a comic book, it takes the reins off too. You can have literally anything you want happen.
Yeah, that's what I told them. You know, we had a big discussion about it after, about, well, how do you do the comic book stuff? And I sent them some of the stuff that I wrote for IDW. And I told them, listen, in some ways you're so free, guys. You have no budget. You want to put Purgatory Jack to the moon, you can fly him to the moon. You know what I mean? I said, the only thing you need to consider is dialogue now. You can't have a whole page full of bubbles of massive, you know, monologues. That's where you need to chop. But your budget-wise in a comic, if you can think it and they can draw it, you can have it. It's amazing. It's literally a movie with zero budget. It's incredible. it's super fun. And that's a world where you could really have a lot of fun as an artist and a writer.
Yeah, they mentioned some of the things in Purgatory that were in their original idea, like these flies and stuff. That's where comics would be beautiful.
Perfect. It'd be perfect.
Well, you have done a bunch of other stuff, and I'd be remiss if I didn't touch on them, like Winona Earp, and people love you for that. And I personally just finished Schitt's Creek. I was watching it. I had no idea you were even in that until the third episode.
Yeah.
What's it like being part of those families?
Amazing. Oddly enough, two of the best fan bases, probably in the world from what I've definitely seen for sure. But from what I've heard from other people who at the Comic-Con that I go to, they're always like, wow, your fans are just the nicest, kindest people. And it's literally a mix of Winona Earp people they call themselves the Earpers. And then, Schitt's Creek kids will come and see me and people all the time, fans. And they just love those shows, and they're so kind and passionate about their shows. It's amazing. I was very fortunate. I actually did Schitt's Creek first. A lot of people didn't know that, and then I booked Winona while I was kind of filming just after Schitt's Creek, in between a couple of seasons. And that's kind of why I went over and did Winona. It was a leading role on a show for me. It was a huge deal. That's enough to be able to kind of do the two, but more Winona after.
That's why Mutt kind of
he goes to the longest pinecone festival in history. That's it.
Exactly.
Here, got a new job.
He did come back to Lone on the Barn.
Yeah. I love that show. Annie Murphy's one of my favorite co-stars I think I've ever had, and so is Sarah Levy. And I'm super lucky because Sarah Levy and I do a new show together called Surreal Estate on Sci-Fi, streaming on Hulu right now. We just wrapped season 2. So, I'm super lucky. If you didn't know about that, you should check it out. What we do is we sell houses, but we only specialize in haunted houses. So we need to deal with the ghost or whatever demon entity which is in each house every week and kind of deal with it. And we may or may not have superpowers. I may or may not be able to speak to the dead. And Sarah Levy, Twyla Shit, might be able to set the world on fire. So if you're looking for a new show, I got you covered.
Oh, that is wicked. I love that concept.
Yeah, man, it's super fun show.
Now, what's coming up for you?
I got a lot of stuff coming out that I filmed last year that still hasn't come out. And I have, like I said, like we were talking before, I got some new projects coming up that I'm super excited about. Some stuff I can't talk about. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Another one that I can, called Protectors of the Land. I'm very excited about that one. I'm going to start that in April in northern BC. Should be super cool. I'm doing something just before that, and then I start something else right after. Super busy. I'm super lucky. Within all that, I'm still writing a new comic book. For people who didn't know, I was able to kind of take over and co-write the Winona Earp comic books with the creator, Bo Smith. And I had him mentor and co-writing partner, and we did, he brought me on and I helped him write a lot of the Winona Earp books. And then him and I have created a new book called The Agents of Danger for Moonstone Publishing, kind of just about in the 50s of this group of like super agents kind of taking on this evil empire world. Thinks James Bond meets Indiana Jones meets Tomb Raider meets it's just a super action adventure story. No one's got superpowers, but we're all just the agents of danger. Super fun stuff.
What's it like being in the comic world then? Because that's a completely different world than film.
It's my favorite thing. But like I said, I was super lucky enough to have Bo Smith kind of take me as my mentor and take me in, and he let me co-write with him. And I learned so much from. For people who don't know Bo Smith, he's written everybody from, he created Winona Earp, but he's written like from Green Lantern to like you name it. He's written everybody. DC was one of the original guys that started Image with Jim Lee. He worked at IDW forever. He just won the Eisner last year. At Comic-Con Lifetime Achievement Award. Like Bo Smith's a big deal in comics.
Yes.
To get to work with him is the best. And the best part about it is how much I think he gets a kick out of me too. Like, I'm a super comic book fan. People don't know that. I am. I'm not lying. Like, look, this is just randomly next to me.
Ooh, what is that?
This is the 1960s Marvel Comic Spectacular Amazing Spider-Man record. That I have the comic book Amazing Spider-Man #1 golden record reprint, not the #1, or I would be retiring from everything probably. But I didn't have the record. I'm trying to hunt this down forever. And it was actually Tate Fletcher, who plays on The Mandalorian, that I met in Australia Comic-Con, who tracked this down and sent me this golden record for Christmas. So now I have the set. I have the comic book and the record. And what you do as a kid in the 60s is you would play the record and it would read you the part as you went along with your book. And now I've got the set complete. So I'm super happy. And Tate Fletcher, The Mandalorian, he's the man. Anyway, he sent me this for Christmas. So that's just randomly happened to be sitting here. I've got some art next to me, rando also. I don't know who sent me this. This is like, I think Guy Gardner.
Nice.
Yeah, this is Guy Gardner. It is who it is. Yeah, like I'm super into my comic book stuff. So
Guy Gardner was amazing in Justice League International during the 90s. That was like the epitome of Guy Gardner right there.
Yeah, awesome.
him and Batman.
Yeah, I think Bo Smith might have worked on a couple of those Batmans back in those days. In the 80s, Bo was doing some Batman stuff too. I just know he's done everything. He's just a man.
So then, in the comic world, what would be your best story? Because see, I know for me, Kraven's Last Hunt is like the best comic story ever.
Well, then you must be excited. You're getting your movie soon. Either you're excited or you're nervous. You're one of the two.
I'm curious. We'll put it that way.
Curious. Yeah, you're right. Okay, I guess there's the third one. That's great. Listen, for me, it's Fantastic Four, 48, 49, 50. For people who don't know, that's the coming of Galactus. The Watcher kind of warns the Fantastic Four of Galactus, the World Eater, is coming, and he sends out his herald, my favorite, the one and only Norrin Radd, who has left his Shalabau and is the new herald of Galactus, the Silver Surfer. He's my all-time favorite. Love him. Love the other heralds too, Firestorm. There's some other ones, but Silver Surfer is kind of my all-time favorite.
I was never a huge fan of Firelord, or Firestorm, sorry. Firelord. Yeah, you're right. Firelord, because there's one issue of Spider-Man where Spider-Man and Firelord are fighting. Nice. And it's hilarious, the back and forth between the two.
Awesome.
So I'll throw that out there.
Yeah, awesome.
But Tim, thank you so much for coming on chat with us and giving us a peek into the other side of Tim, which is awesome.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. Listen, man, like you know, once I found a comic book guy now, we could chat for hours. So
absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, you're welcome back anytime you want to come on the show. And trust me, I might pester you a couple more times to come on as well.
Not a problem.
All right. For Blood in the Snow Radio, Bits Radio, Rob, this is Tim, and we will talk to you later.
Thank you so much.
Join us next time for Blood in the Snow Radio. Bits Radio is a production of Three Evil Cats Productions in association with the Blood and Snow Canadian Film Festival. For more information and to listen to other episodes, visit bloodinthesnow.ca and tweet us at BitsFilmFest. Music by Jen Gorman, produced and edited by Kelly Michael